Hi everyone and welcome along. Today we're going to do a really lovely card design. We're going to do a watercolour horseshoe with some summer flowers. This will be a really nice design to bring lots of luck to the recipient. So grab your paints and let's get started. I've been pondering the best way to draw a horseshoe, and I think it's a bit like drawing an egg when we did loads of Easter egg things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do like the bottom half with a compass. So I'm going to just draw sort of like 2/3 of a circle. Then I'm going to make the compass a bit bigger, keeping the point in the middle, and then I'm going to find a sort of top edge, and I'm going to just sketch upwards. I might not even need to go that far. I think about there actually. Okay, so I'm going to just try and match it, and that's the hard thing, isn't it? When you're like, I can do one side really easily, but you can see, just don't worry about your sketchy lines, because if you watched my tutorial last week all about how to rub out pencil, you'll know that you can just give it a light rub out with a rubber and just get the lines to a really nice bare minimum. I'm quite happy with that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the top edge, make sure that's even, and then I'm just going to angle it down. There we go, and there we have a horseshoe. And then you do also get, horseshoes, I've noticed just after doing a little bit of research, they can have little different details and things, but what tends to be very important are the holes. So I'm going to just do 3 either side, just matching it up by eye, because we're going to have some flowers coming down in the middle. So I'm going to give that a nice rub out with with my putty rubber, and then we can get painting. That's nicely just rubbed out, but the one thing I also will do is to plan my flowers. So we're going to put a lovely sort of garland of flowers down here. It can be useful to just lightly map out where your flowers are going to be in pencil, just with circles, just so you know sort of where the big ones are. I've done that very faintly. Now we're going to do some nice wildflowers, summer wildflowers, and these brown handled brushes here are part of my Bloom brush set that I sell in my Etsy shop, and they're really good for creating loose watercolour florals. So what we're going to do is we're going to paint some flowers first, and then we're going to paint in the horseshoe around it. I'm going to use some cadmium red, and I'm going to create a big loose poppy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just squish the brush down. You can see how much colour it will use, and I'm just going to just sort of map in the petals at this point. The poppies are so big and so dominant, we don't want too many, so I'm just going to pop in one smaller one here. And you can see just by sort of twisting the brush round like that, we can create some really nice shapes. So that is going to be really lovely, and I am, whilst it's just drying on the page, going to take a little bit of Mars Black. So I'm just giving it a bit of time. It's also a very hot day here in the UK, which helps things just sort of dry nicely on the page. With my size 2 brush, I'm just going to dab in a few spots of Mars Black. Okay, so the next sort of choice to make is whether you want to be painting flowers that are touching the edges of these red petals, or if you want to sort of leave them to dry, let them crisp up, and then sort of move on to your next flowers. Well, I've got a sort of go between, whereas I'm going to paint a few sort of cornflower that are just a little bit sort of out of the way from my petals. So I've got some cobalt blue deep here, and I think I'm going to use my what size brush shall I use? I'll use a size 0. Here we go, pointed round, size 0. And we're just sort of painting nice and loosely today, so I'm going to use the brush stroke from thin to thick, and then maybe just add in a few more. And then as we get towards the back, we'll just really shorten them right down. And then I've got some French ultramarine blue here, just a little bit darker. We'll just catch in the middle there. And so I'm just gonna just sort of go around looking for a few other places to pop some of these in. So just remembering to sort of shorten them around the top there, and then add a few dots of the darker blue in there. Now I'm popping in some buttercups, so I'm using cadmium yellow and a size 0 brush to create 5 petals, and you can see they're all just a little bit spaced out, but it doesn't matter if they touch each other. And then we can always do one that sort of we can see sort of underneath, so we just do the petals as if we're looking at them from underneath. And what we're doing basically is building up this garland, and each flower we add is going to be a slightly smaller flower than the previous one, because it's much easier to add little flowers as we go on, rather than trying to imagine squeezing in a poppy to this arrangement at this stage. It would be rather impossible. And so after this one, we're going to have one last flower. We're going to add red campion in, and then we can pop in the stems, and then we'll know exactly how much sort of area we've covered with flowers, knowing then how much or how little of the horseshoe we need to paint in. So for red campion, I'm using again my size 0 brush and permanent rose, and I'm doing little V's for the petals. And I'm trying to make them the smallest flower. And looking for places to dab them in. And make sure you don't just sort of put them all tightly clustered in. You can have some just sort of hanging out a bit further off. And I'll just do a few little dots as well, which will be nice buds. And, you know, intersperse them with the other flowers. I think that's really important as well. And then once we've got all these painted in, we can put in the foliage. So get your green tones woken up in the palette. So for me, that's we've got sap green and green gold are going to be the key ones here. So I'm going to let this dry now and then doing the leaves. Okay, so before we do our green, the red campion flowers have this little lobe on the back of them, which isn't massively, I'm trying to look for one that I can actually sort of see. There we go, that one's quite a good one. They've got this extra bit on the back, so I'm just painting that in alizarin crimson. Anyway, I'm going to take my rigger brush and I'm going to just start working out stems. At this point, we're not worrying about sort of all the extra details on the flowers that there of course need to be. We're just getting the stems painted in. The rigger brush is so good for this. Okay, so I'm going to use green gold for the red campion. And you can see that everything is sort of coming out from this central point, isn't it? And then for the cornflower, I'll just take a slightly sort of less slender brush. And then you can see we've got plenty of room for leaves and extra little flourishes here and there. So I'm going to just start just adding a little leaf here and there. Kind of where I just want to fill out the piece. And then also just sometimes if you want like a larger leaf, even if there might not be naturally one in the composition, that's absolutely fine as well. And I might just place, you know, one or two over the top of some of the other flowers. That's starting to look really nice. We're going to leave our flowers for a minute and look at the horseshoe. So I've just woken up some various sort of browny colours. I've got the yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and then I've also got the moon glow here. And what I'm going to do is, with my size 2 brush, I'm going to paint in a wash. I'm going to begin with yellow ochre, and I'm going to purposefully leave a few little bits unpainted. And then I'm going to just drop in an edge here or there, and maybe just a little bit of moon glow, and just make it a sort of like slightly rustic, a rustic horseshoe. And then when I get to the circles, I'm going to do a moon glow outline. If you don't have moon glow, Payne's Grey does a similar job of creating a lovely, interesting sort of grey tone. I think just keep your brush moving, and then when you get down to the flowers, you can paint among them, paint around them. If you don't disturb them too much, you'll be fine to paint over them a little bit. And then you probably will have little bits of horseshoe that you can see as you go down. It's up to you whether you want to paint those in or not, but you do have the pencil there which should have shown you, so it's up to you really. But just work your way round until you've got your horseshoe painted in. So I've rubbed out some pencil lines as well at this stage. Once that had dried, I used my hard eraser. I was doing a YouTube tutorial all about this on Friday, the secret behind rubbing out pencil, but one of the things is all about at what stage do you rub out pencil lines. And for me, the last erasing of pencil comes just before you start painting in extra detailed bits. So anyway, those erasers, if you want to get them from me, they are part of the new Essential Watercolour kit that I sell, which also very excitingly features a brand new cold pressed cotton watercolour paper pad that I'm using as well right now, that has my branding printed on it, which is really exciting. So anyway, go and check that out if you haven't already. So this is now the stage at which I'm going to start sort of adding in a little bit of detail. So I've got cadmium yellow to just add another layer of texture to some of these buttercups. Obviously we used cadmium yellow on them in the first place, so it only shows up if it's a different concentration, if you see what I mean. So we painted them nice and dilute the first time round, and now doing it with a bit more concentration. I've got some green gold there, just creating a few little sepals. It's quite thick, I'll just thin that down a little bit. And if you want, you can just add in a few little leaves. And then the other thing I like to do is a few dots in the middle of those buttercups. You're not going to see much around the side, so those look nice. For the red campion, I'm going to use a little bit of alizarin crimson to do a sort of similar thing, just a few little lines coming out of the centre. As the flowers get bigger, we're going to now do the cornflower. So I've got just some Mars black to add a few dots in the centre there. And then I'm going to add, I'm going to first take my size 2 brush, and what I want to do is just add just a few extra little brush strokes coming out of the centre of the poppy, really scribbling the brush. Scribble, just scribble it from the centre outwards, and it just gives your poppies just that little bit more life. And then finish that off, a little bit of Mars black, just for a few slightly more defined little anthers of the centre of the poppy. It doesn't matter if they bleed into your new red lines, that's absolutely fine. And then for your horseshoe, well, it's up to you really whether you want to add any more detail or a little bit of a sort of side return angle. It might be fun just adding, this is just using moon glow, down the side. A little sort of tapering line, but then if you've done that you'll want to probably just add a little bit to your horseshoe holes as well. Like I say, one side's always a lot easier than the other one, isn't it? It's funny. Okay, and there we have a lovely horseshoe full of summer wildflowers, a great card idea. Maybe a great wedding card to wish the happy couple lots of luck. But whatever you do, I hope you enjoy painting. Thanks so much for watching. We've got so many different card designs and you can find them all on our card making playlist right here on the YouTube channel. If you enjoyed that, then hit the like button and comment below to let me know how you got on with that one. And of course, if you never want to miss another video, then hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell, and we'll see you again next time. Bye!